Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to stop, listen, and think, because what you are witnessing right now is history being written, and written in steel, fire, and determination. The title of today's talk says it all: Russia closing on Odessa, Ukraine gasping, NATO helpless. This is not just a headline, it's a reality unfolding before our eyes. And the lessons embedded in this moment are not only military, they are lessons about power, resolve, and survival. Reality always wins. That statement alone should be enough to command attention because it cuts through the fog of rhetoric, propaganda, and self-deception that so often surrounds human decision-making. You can craft a narrative, you can repeat it 1,000 times, and you can even convince yourself of it, but when the moment of truth arrives, when steel meets steel, when pressure tests your strength, when consequences demand payment, reality has the final word. No slogans, no illusions, no wishful thinking can shield you. And here's the hook: if you're not building your life, your strategy, your mission on reality, then you are already standing on quicksand, whether you recognize it or not. Look at the battlefield today and you see the principle in motion. Ukraine wanted to believe that Western promises, shipments of weapons, and rhetorical support would change the outcome of the war. NATO wanted to believe that sanctions, public statements, and moral outrage would paralyze Moscow. Yet reality is crushing both illusions. Russia has continued to advance because Russia has not built its plan on slogans but on cold, unflinching assessment of the facts, its own capabilities, its adversaries' weaknesses, and the terrain of both the battlefield and geopolitics. And here's the uncomfortable truth: reality doesn't care what you believe. It doesn't care how hard you shout. It rewards those who respect it, and it punishes those who ignore it. Now apply that lesson to your own life. How many people lose years chasing illusions? They build careers based on what sounds good instead of what is sustainable. They invest time in relationships that look impressive on the outside but are hollow at the core. They refuse to confront their own weaknesses, telling themselves they'll figure it out later, until later comes and reality collects its debt. The battlefield teaches us the same thing life does. Delay does not erase the truth. It only makes the cost of facing it higher. The longer you deny reality, the harsher the reckoning will be when it arrives. Here's another hook: you cannot outmaneuver reality, but you can align yourself with it. Think of reality as the current of a river. You can fight it, resist it, and exhaust yourself until you drown, or you can recognize its direction, adjust your course, and use it to carry you forward. The strongest leaders, the most effective warriors, and the most successful individuals are not those who ignore reality, but those who study it, adapt to it, and turn it into an ally. They don't waste time complaining that the current exists. They figure out how to navigate it. History is littered with examples of nations and individuals destroyed because they believed their own illusions. Napoleon ignored the reality of Russia's vastness and winter, and his empire collapsed. Hitler repeated the same mistake with even greater devastation. Today, leaders in the West tell themselves that sheer willpower or moral superiority will overcome logistics, geography, and the resolve of adversaries. But the graveyards of history are filled with men who believe that reality could be bent to their desires. It cannot. Reality always wins. And this is where the choice lies for each of us. You can be like NATO, paralyzed, waiting for fantasy solutions while the world moves forward without you. Or you can be like the strategist who looks at the battlefield, sees it for what it is, and adapts accordingly. The difference between gasping for survival and advancing with confidence is not luck. It is not speeches. It is respect for reality. So here's the question: where are you lying to yourself right now? Where are you holding on to illusions because they're comfortable? And what is it costing you? Because make no mistake, there is a cost. The sooner you face reality, the sooner you take control. The longer you avoid it, the more brutal its verdict will be. Reality is not your enemy. It is your teacher, your compass, your test. Respect it, and you'll grow stronger. Ignore it, and you'll be broken. Reality always wins. Strength respects strength. That principle is as old as humanity itself, and it governs every level of existence, from the battlefield to the boardroom, from nations to individuals. You cannot demand respect through words alone. You cannot beg for it, and you cannot purchase it with empty gestures. Respect, whether personal or geopolitical, flows only to those who demonstrate undeniable strength. That strength may not always be physical. It may be intellectual, moral, strategic, or financial. But without it, you are ignored, dismissed, or manipulated. The world is not interested in excuses, it is interested in results. And here's the hook: if you want to be taken seriously in any arena, you must bring real strength to the table, because in the harsh order of life, weakness is an invitation for exploitation. The conflict in Ukraine is a brutal case study in this truth. For years, NATO and Western leaders assumed that simply invoking their collective name would deter any adversary. They assumed that speeches and sanctions could substitute for hard power. But reality has exposed the illusion. Russia has acted with the resolve and endurance of a state determined to secure its objectives, while NATO's strength has been revealed as more rhetorical than real. The world watches, and the lesson is unmistakable: adversaries do not fear words, they do not yield to posturing. They calculate strength, they weigh risks, and they act accordingly. Respect flows only where strength is visible, credible, and ready to be applied. Now take that principle into personal life. How often do people expect others to respect them simply because they ask for it? A man demands respect from his peers but has never invested the time to master his craft. A leader expects loyalty from a team but shows no discipline or consistency in his own decisions. A young professional insists on recognition but avoids the hard work of building skill and resilience. Respect is not granted to titles, intentions, or appearances. Respect is granted to strength, and strength is proven through performance, reliability, and endurance. When people see strength, they recognize it instinctively, and whether they admire it or resent it, they cannot ignore it. Strength is magnetic. It draws allies, commands attention, and deters enemies. People naturally align with those who project competence and confidence. On the other hand, weakness is repellent. It attracts predators, invites doubt, and isolates you from opportunities. This is why the battlefield lesson matters so much. Nations that radiate strength secure their interests. Individuals who cultivate strength build authority in any room they enter. In contrast, those who project weakness become spectators in their own destiny, subject to the will of others. But strength is not noise, it is not bravado or aggression. Many mistake volume for strength, but the strongest individuals often do not need to shout. Their presence speaks before they do. Their record of performance silences doubters. Their discipline eliminates the need for theatrics. True strength is quiet, steady, and undeniable. Russia has not relied on speeches to advance. It has relied on artillery, logistics, and strategy. In the same way, you cannot rely on promises to carry you forward in life. You must have the skills, the preparation, and the discipline to deliver when it counts. Look at history. The Roman legions did not secure an empire because they talked about power. They built it through unmatched discipline and strength. America in its rise commanded global respect not through rhetoric, but through industrial might, innovation, and the ability to project real force when necessary. And every time a nation has tried to substitute talk for strength, it has discovered the same fate: decline, humiliation, and defeat. The same is true of every individual who tries to posture instead of prepare. Strength respects strength, and weakness respects nothing. What kind of strength are you building? Is it the strength of knowledge so that no one can outthink you? Is it the strength of resilience so that no setback can break you? Is it the strength of discipline so that every day you are sharpening yourself into a weapon against mediocrity? Or are you relying on talk, hoping others will respect you for what you say rather than what you prove? Because here's the final hook: when you walk into the world, you don't get what you want, you get what you demonstrate. And the world demonstrates its respect only to those who carry strength in their presence, their actions, and their results. Strength respects strength, always. Illusion is the enemy of victory. Nothing destroys nations, armies, or individuals faster than the refusal to face the truth. An illusion may comfort you, it may inspire you, it may even rally temporary support, but it cannot change the reality that ultimately decides outcomes. Illusions are fragile walls built on sand. When tested, they collapse with devastating consequences. The most dangerous illusions are not the ones told by others, but the ones we tell ourselves. And here's the hook: the stronger you cling to illusion, the more mercilessly reality will strike you when it finally breaks through. The ongoing war in Ukraine reveals this principle with brutal clarity. Leaders in Kiev convinced themselves that Western promises of support would guarantee victory. They believed that advanced weapons, financial packages, and speeches in distant capitals could substitute for manpower, logistics, and staying power. Western leaders told their own populations that sanctions would cripple Russia overnight, that outrage on social media would translate into decisive leverage. These illusions looked strong on paper, they sounded convincing in the media. But on the battlefield, illusions do not fire artillery, they do not move supplies, and they do not stop advancing divisions. When the illusion met reality, Ukraine was left gasping, NATO exposed its limits, and Russia continued advancing with steady determination. The battlefield does not care what you believe, it cares only about facts. Illusion is not confined to war. It is present in every corner of human life. A man convinces himself that his health is secure while ignoring the warning signs of neglect. An entrepreneur believes that passion alone will carry a business forward while neglecting the discipline of strategy and execution. A leader surrounds himself with people who tell him what he wants to hear rather than what he needs to hear, until failure arrives and exposes the hollow foundation beneath his vision. Illusion is seductive precisely because it shields us from discomfort. It whispers that we are stronger than we are, more prepared than we are, or more supported than we are. But illusions are lies dressed as hope, and when the test comes, they vanish, leaving only the raw truth and the cost of ignoring it. Illusions are comfortable prisons. They lock you inside a world where you feel safe and victorious, even as danger grows outside your walls. But make no mistake, those walls are paper, thin, and the first real challenge will tear them apart. Freedom lies in breaking those illusions yourself before reality does it for you. Facing the truth may hurt, but it arms you with the clarity to act effectively. Clinging to illusion feels good, but it leaves you disarmed when the real battle arrives. The greatest military disasters in history are almost always rooted in illusion. Napoleon convinced himself that winter could not stop his army. Hitler convinced himself that ideology was stronger than logistics. The United States convinced itself that technology and firepower alone could impose victory in Vietnam and later in Afghanistan. In each case, illusion blinded leaders to the facts staring them in the face. They ignored the terrain, the will of the adversary, the limitations of their own forces. And when the reckoning came, it was not the enemy that destroyed them. It was their own refusal to abandon illusions in time. The same principle governs your personal battles. If you want to win in your career, in your relationships, in your mission, you must wage war against your own illusions. Ask yourself hard questions. Where am I lying to myself? What truths am I avoiding because they're uncomfortable? What weaknesses am I ignoring because they expose my pride? These questions cut deep, but they cut away the illusions that keep you weak. Every time you shed an illusion, you grow stronger. Every time you cling to one, you plant the seed of future defeat. Illusions always delay pain, but they magnify it. They promise comfort today, but they deliver catastrophe tomorrow. Victory belongs only to those who see clearly, plan realistically, and act decisively. Illusion is the enemy of that process. It is the poison of denial, the silent saboteur of strength, the quiet partner of defeat. If you want to win, whether in battle, in leadership, or in life, you must have the courage to strip away illusions and face reality for what it is. Because when the test comes, reality will always expose you. The only question is whether you will be prepared when it does. Patience and precision beat noise. That principle is often forgotten in a world addicted to speed, attention, and loud declarations. People think that the loudest voice in the room holds the most power, but the truth is the opposite. Noise is a distraction. It creates the illusion of motion without actual progress. Patience and precision, however, are what produce real results. The disciplined mind, the measured step, and the carefully chosen strike always outperform chaos in volume. And here's the hook. History doesn't remember those who shouted the loudest. It remembers those who acted with precision at the decisive moment. The war in Ukraine offers a perfect demonstration. Western capitals and media outlets have generated a constant storm of noise, daily claims of victories, announcements of new weapons shipments, bold statements about what Russia will or won't do. Yet behind the noise, the battlefield tells a different story. Russia has advanced not with speed or flamboyance, but with patience. Its operations are deliberate, designed to conserve strength and grind down its opponent. Each strike is calculated, each move carefully coordinated. NATO's noise fills the headlines, but Russia's precision reshapes the map, and the lesson is unavoidable. Victory belongs not to those who shout, but to those who focus, prepare, and execute with accuracy. Think about your own life. How often do people confuse noise for progress? They announce their goals loudly to everyone around them, but never put in the disciplined work to achieve them. They spend hours in debate, discussion, and planning, yet fail to take the single step that actually moves them forward. They chase attention, thinking visibility equals strength, when in truth it only exposes their lack of substance. Patience, on the other hand, is quiet. Precision doesn't need to brag, it speaks through outcomes. The strongest individuals and organizations don't waste energy on noise, they invest it in building strength, refining skills, and waiting for the right moment to act. Noise is easy, precision is hard. Anyone can talk, few can deliver. Anyone can rush, few can wait. Patience requires discipline because it forces you to delay gratification and control impulse. Precision requires mastery because it forces you to sharpen every action until it counts. When you combine the two, you become unstoppable. You move with calm clarity while others exhaust themselves in a storm of empty motion. You conserve strength, strike only when necessary, and achieve maximum effect with minimal effort. That is the essence of strategy, whether on the battlefield or in life. History confirms this again and again. Hannibal defeated Rome at Cannae not with noise, but with precise execution of a plan years in the making. Ulysses S. Grant ended the American Civil War not through fiery speeches, but through a patient campaign that slowly strangled the Confederacy. In more recent memory, militaries and corporations alike that relied on flashy declarations collapsed when tested, while those that invested in quiet, disciplined preparation emerged dominant. The principle has not changed. Patience and precision turn vision into victory. While noise burns energy without progress, in a noisy world, patience and precision are your secret weapons. When everyone else is rushing, you stay calm. When everyone else is distracted, you stay focused. When others waste their energy proving themselves in words, you build proof in results. That difference is not small, it is decisive. The person who masters patience and precision becomes the one others cannot ignore, because their actions carry weight far beyond words. Ask yourself, are you chasing noise, or are you building precision? Are you broadcasting your ambitions, or are you quietly sharpening your skills? Are you rushing forward blindly, or are you waiting with discipline for the exact moment to strike? Because in the end, the world does not reward those who make the most noise. It rewards those who conserve their strength, perfect their aim, and act with devastating accuracy when the time is right. Patience and precision beat noise, always. Helplessness is a choice. It may sound harsh, but the truth rarely flatters our weaknesses. People like to believe helplessness is something imposed on them, the inevitable result of circumstances or the cruelty of others. But more often than not, helplessness is the product of decisions not to prepare, not to act, not to take responsibility when it mattered most. You cannot always control the conditions of life, but you can always control how you respond to them. And here's the hook. Helplessness is not a condition you are born into. It is a condition you accept. Look at NATO today. For years, Western leaders celebrated their alliance as the most powerful military organization in history. They enjoyed the comfort of prestige, the illusion of endless dominance. But when confronted with the reality of war on Europe's doorstep, when faced with Russia's disciplined advance and the collapse of illusions in Ukraine, NATO has been revealed as paralyzed. Why? Not because it lacks resources, not because it lacks manpower. It is helpless because it lacks the will to act decisively. It has built its strength on rhetoric instead of preparation, on politics instead of strategy. When the test arrived, the alliance chose inaction, hesitation, and fear of consequences. That helplessness is not imposed, it is chosen. Now bring this lesson closer to home. How often do people say, I can't, when what they really mean is, I won't? A man says he cannot get in shape, but in reality, he will not commit to discipline. A woman says she cannot escape a toxic situation, but in reality, she will not take the painful steps required to change it. A leader says he cannot inspire his team, but in reality, he will not do the work to earn their trust. Helplessness thrives on excuses, and excuses are choices. Each time you surrender responsibility, you dig deeper into helplessness. Helplessness is comfortable. It removes responsibility from your shoulders. If you are helpless, you no longer have to act, fight, or risk failure. You can simply wait and blame circumstances for your stagnation. But comfort is poison when it disguises itself as helplessness. The more you accept it, the weaker you become. And the weaker you become, the easier it is for others to control your destiny. The battlefield teaches this brutally. Nations that choose helplessness do not survive. Individuals who embrace it do not lead. History offers endless warnings. France in 1940 was not helpless because it lacked soldiers. It was helpless because its leadership refused to act boldly, preferring excuses to reality. The Roman Empire was not helpless because of weak armies, it was helpless because its elites grew complacent, indulging in illusions while its enemies sharpened their swords. In each case, helplessness began as a choice to delay, to deny, to surrender responsibility. By the time reality struck, it was too late to recover. The alternative is clear: choose strength. That does not mean denying hardship or pretending you are invulnerable. It means refusing to give away your agency. It means acknowledging obstacles while still taking responsibility for how you face them. Helplessness says, "There's nothing I can do." Strength says, "There is always something I can do." Helplessness says, "The circumstances control me." Strength says, "I control my response to the circumstances." That shift is the line between decline and survival, between submission and leadership. Helplessness is never forced upon you, it is offered, and you either accept it or reject it every day. In every decision, you are making that choice. Are you choosing to surrender responsibility, to wait for someone else to act, to hope for rescue? Or are you choosing to own your situation, however difficult, and fight for control? NATO's paralysis is a cautionary tale. Ukraine's gasping struggle is a reminder. The world will never hand you strength, you must choose it. And the moment you do, helplessness loses its grip. The choice is always yours. Your Odessa is coming. That is not a prediction, it is a certainty. Every nation, every army, every individual will eventually face a moment that defines whether they endure or collapse. For Ukraine, Odessa is more than a port city, it is the lifeline of survival. For Russia, it is the final prize that will secure dominance on the Black Sea. And for NATO, Odessa represents the line it dares not cross, because to act would expose the fragility of its unity. But beyond the headlines and the battlefield, Odessa is also a metaphor for life itself. It is that decisive test that strips away illusion, shatters excuses, and demands everything you have. And here's the hook: sooner or later, you will face your Odessa, and how you meet it will determine not just what you achieve, but who you truly are. On the battlefield, Odessa represents inevitability. Russia's advance toward the city is not about theatrics or noise. It is the culmination of strategy, logistics, and patience. Ukraine gasps for survival because its energy is spent and its resources depleted. NATO watches helplessly because its power exists more in speeches than in decisive capability. That is the truth of geopolitics, but the deeper truth is that every Odessa moment forces clarity. It separates reality from illusion, strength from weakness, and endurance from collapse. No matter how long you delay, the decisive moment will arrive. When it does, noise won't save you, illusion won't protect you. Only preparation and resolve will. Now think about your own life. Your Odessa may not be a battlefield, but it will feel like one. It might be the day you face the collapse of a business, the end of a relationship, the betrayal of trust, or a crisis that threatens everything you've worked for. It might be the challenge of health, the burden of leadership, or the weight of a responsibility you cannot avoid. In that moment, excuses vanish. Comfort disappears. The world will not wait for you to be ready. Your Odessa will arrive whether you invite it or not. And the question will be simple: are you prepared to stand, or will you collapse gasping for survival? Most people spend their lives hoping Odessa never comes. They tell themselves the decisive test won't happen, or if it does, someone else will carry them through. But history proves the opposite. Nations that deny their Odessa collapse. Leaders who fear their Odessa are forgotten. Individuals who avoid their Odessa become prisoners of regret. It is not the absence of Odessa that defines greatness. It is the ability to meet it head on, with clarity and strength when it arrives. Preparation is the difference. Russia's steady advance toward Odessa shows what preparation looks like: patient, disciplined, relentless. NATO's helplessness shows what happens when preparation is replaced with posturing. Ukraine's gasping struggle shows what happens when you fight battles without the resources to win. The same principle applies to you. If you prepare, if you build discipline, sharpen your skills, and strengthen your resolve, you will face your Odessa with confidence. If you delay, deny, or cling to illusion, your Odessa will crush you. And here is the most powerful hook: your Odessa is not your enemy. It is your opportunity. It is the crucible that forces you to reveal your true capacity. Comfort never tests you, ease never forges you. Only crisis can strip you bare and show what lies underneath. If you are prepared, Odessa becomes the moment that defines your greatness. If you are unprepared, it becomes the moment that ends your illusions. So when you hear the words, Russia closing on Odessa, Ukraine gasping, NATO helpless, don't just think about geopolitics. Think about your life. Think about the test that is coming for you. It may not be tomorrow, it may not be next year, but it is coming. The only question is whether you will meet it gasping for survival or standing unshaken, ready, and strong. Because your Odessa is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. And when it comes, everything will depend on the choices you make today.